whatever you've done, and make that list up. And we tend to forget who we are. And if we forget who we are, they're going to forget who you are. And I made that list, and I would look at that list and say, God, I did some pretty neat things, some against all odds things in some cases. If I can do that, I can do this. So this is just another thing to add to the list. And it doesn't become that barrier, that obstacle, that giant hurdle that you can't knock down. It becomes the next thing on the list that you will conquer.
Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset, everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer. Be sure to head over to clicksandbricksacademy.com so you can access all the resources to start improving your sales today.
Today, we're talking to Brian from ADMANITY. And if you're struggling with sales, either online or offline, you have to watch this episode. How are you doing today, Brian?
Ken, I'm doing great. It's a great day in the empire.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I've been through some of your documents already, super exciting stuff. But before we jump into what it is that you do specifically, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how you got started in this industry?
Absolutely. Well, my background most recently is in the advertising and marketing and agency world. And for the longest time, I was a publisher of citywide magazines. In other words, we're selling ads to small businesses most of the time, and occasionally big agency represented brands. But most of the time, it's just a Main Street USA trying to advertise in your magazine. And I sold about 3,000 ads to different businesses, got very, very good at selling ads, and then realized that most of my clients didn't know what to put in the ads. They wanted to buy them, but they didn't know what to put in them. So that led me onto a quest that lasted at least, it's been 7 years just creating ADMANITY, but even before that, to try to figure out what makes an ad work. Why do some ads work and some ads fail? What's the magic dust that you have to put in an ad to get another human being to respond? And that's probably the journey I'm most proud of.
Fantastic. I know that, in some places the sizzle sells the steak and not the steak itself. So you went to, hey, how do I find that sizzle and put it in the ads for the most part?
Yeah, I believe no one's bought a steak yet. They buy the sizzle every time.
They buy every time it's a sizzle? All right, fantastic. So now you were in the ad space and it took you 7 years, you said, to build ADMANITY. And did you leave the ad space and start ADMANITY, or did you do this as a side hustle while you had your day job?
Yeah, for a while, I had a pretty good paying job. And so I didn't want to just, get rid of that. And so I wrote my book. The book's called Sheep Don't Eat Complicated Grass. And you can still find it online somewhere. But it basically opened up this notion that there are 15 emotions that have sold everything on the planet. So I still had my day job and I wrote the book. The book got, great reviews from people who had read it. And I realized that the book didn't go far enough because you can only go so far with one book, right? And so I decided, you know what, I want to help millions of small businesses, and the odds of me selling 1 million books are pretty small. So I will create an online algorithm. And I had no idea what that even meant. I was just spouting off the words, and I put it in the universe, so to speak. I said, well, maybe I can do this. This would be cool if somebody could. I had looked all over the internet to see if anybody had actually done this. I figured somebody must have done this, and nobody had. And so I thought, well, then it's going to be me. So that took about 5 more years to create the algorithm. And at that point, I severed my job and walked away from a very nice income, told my fiance what I was doing. With horror in her eyes, she looked at me and said, make it quick. It took 5 years to create something we could actually sell and offer to the public.
Okay. And did you leave the comforts of corporate America, if you can call corporate America comfort? Did you leave that pre-revenue, or did you already have some revenue? I mean, you had some book sales, but I think if you're a book author, you know what that's like. It's not get rich money by far.
No, you make tens of dollars.
Yes. So did you have revenue at ADMANITY before you left, or was that something you were committed to and I'm gonna make this work and jumped in with both feet?
Well, one of the reasons my fiance looked at me with horror in her eyes was I also announced that I was going to use the savings to live on while I created this thing. And so, fortunately, I did have some savings, and so for a while it was no big deal. But savings run out, and so all of a sudden it got very serious. And this particular algorithm that had to be created was obviously no previous model had existed. So it was taking me a while to do this. And, we ran out of money and had to borrow and do all this stuff. It's the entrepreneurial hard luck story. There's never enough money. There's never enough time. And you have to pivot and pivot to figure out how to get to the finish line.
Right. And you told me before we started how you came up with the name ADMANITY and really what that meant to you. And I think it's a kind of special story. Can you share that with the audience as well?
Yeah, it's a combination of two words, advertising and humanity. And we're not a charity, so it's not a humanity like, Habitat for Humanity, but it's advertising as it must relate to another human being for them to understand and then create a desire for your product or service, whatever it is. It is communicating in the first language of humanity. And before we formed words and sentences, we used emotionality. That's what came first. And so ADMANITY is the language of emotions to communicate with another human being.
Fantastic. And obviously, so you've created this company that's all about showing other companies how to use emotions to sell and market their products, which is fantastic. But throughout this whole process, it was an emotional roller coaster, I'm sure, with the savings running out quickly. The fiance, is she still in the picture? You guys married now, or still fiance, or is she gone?
She's crazy too, so she stuck with me.
All right, congratulations. You got to keep her there. My wife's still with me too. I don't understand why all the time, but there was, obviously some ebbs and flows throughout this transition and to get where you're at today. Can you tell the audience, like, is there some tips or tricks that you used, or how did you keep that positive mindset when, you see the checking account dropping for my savings and, the money coming in isn't growing as fast, and it never grows as fast as you think it's going to whenever you take this jump? Or I've not seen it very, very frequently. I've talked to a couple entrepreneurs like, yep, I started and everything was great. And I talk to business owners every single day, so it very seldomly happens. How did you manage those emotions going through this transition with your fiance, knowing that it's going to be a challenging thing?
Great question. I think, at first it was easy. It was fun. There's money in the bank and, the clock is ticking, but you can't hear it tick at that point. And when the money starts going to zero and your fiance looks at you and says, how close are you? It's like, I'm still about 10 miles away. One of the things I did, and I recommend anybody do this. If you're an entrepreneur, there's probably many things in your life that if you really sit down, make a list of everything you've done that somebody said you couldn't do. Make a list of all the cool things you've done in your life, no matter how small, from even winning first place in the Pinewood Derby as a Cub Scout, something like that. Whatever you've done, and make that list up. We tend to forget who we are. And if we forget who we are, they're going to forget who you are. And I made that list, and I would look at that list and say, God, I did some pretty neat things, some against all odds things in some cases. If I can do that, I can do this. So this is just another thing to add to the list. And it doesn't become that barrier, that obstacle, that giant hurdle that you can't knock down. It becomes the next thing on the list that you will conquer. The second piece of advice I can give you is to surround yourself with smart people who are your friends, but also may become your business partners or mastermind people. And make sure you don't put yourself in a locked box and cut yourself off from the one piece of advice that might save you. You can't do it all. Jeff Bezos has 1.5 million employees, making him the richest man on earth. So just know that you can't do it by yourself. And so those two things really help me.
Fantastic. I think that's great advice. I love that, making a list. It's not something that I had heard and I watch, self-help, the School of Greatness, and all those things. I've not heard that specific tip before, the way that you framed it. And I think could be very helpful for people. And I think it's also very helpful to stay in that positive mindset, because you're talking about things that you've accomplished, right? That's Absolutely huge. So you've got these, 15 different, I think it's 15 different emotions that you've defined, and then you create these different ingredients. And you have a test, right? So somebody wanted to take that test, how would they take that test to define? So tell us a little about what the test does and how they would take that test.
Sure. Everything we have is waiting for you right now at admanity.com. So you can go there anytime and take the assessment. The ADMANITY protocol is what we call this, and what I'll describe it for you. It starts, well, what it does, let's say what it does first. If you've kind of ever wished for an ad agency and maybe didn't have the money, because ad agencies are fantastic, but they'll charge 10, 15, 20, $50,000 to assess your brand and tell you what to do. And therefore, 99% of small businesses will never see the inside of an ad agency. And that's a shame, because it contributes to the 80% failure rate. Because if you don't know the answers going in, they're not going to appear magically on a wall to you someday. You need to know the answers before you start spending the money. So ADMANITY gives you those answers. We do it in 5 minutes, not 5 weeks. And we ask you some simple questions about your brand that anybody can answer. True, false test takes 5 minutes. Anybody can take this test. It's fun because it's all about you. And when the test is complete, we have built a psychological profile on your brand, but we don't ask any financial questions. We don't even ask what your business is. We have no idea what you do while you're taking this test. And at the end of it, it doesn't know what, it still doesn't know what you do, but it will tell you exactly which emotions you need to trigger in order to sell it, exactly which words to use, exactly what colors would do it, exactly which emotions are the most powerful for your brand, how to upsell using emotion, how to win back lost clients using the right emotions. So it analyzes your brand and gives you the formulas that fit your brand, as if an ad agency had spent months analyzing your company. Does it in 5 minutes, and it's pretty incredible.
That's fantastically helpful. And admanity.com/clicks.
Well, what it /clicks does, admanity.com/clicks, first gives you a really cool little booklet we came up called How Emotions Sell Everything. And it's just a fast, easy read. And it'll really show your listeners what we do. And from there, they can take the test if they so choose, because the test isn't free. Right now, it's $397, and the price is going up. Just a hint. But there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so really there's no risk to do it. You get to read every word of what we advise you before within that 30 days. So it's really cool.
Fantastic. So you get to read the assessment. Now, I think it's fairly common sense that emotions help sell products, right? Especially in a lot of products, like your cars, those higher things, what beer you get based on what commercial you watched or who you relate to, right? What you did really uniquely, I think, is that one is that you categorized each business on, these little different buckets. And when I took it, it said, I'm a community brand. And I really wanted to dive into that a little bit deeper. But what I find fascinating on what you did was that you've coupled multiple emotions together, right, to create a new narrative. And I've not seen that anywhere else. How did you, what was some of the, focus behind, or, the light bulb moments that said, oh, it's not just one emotion that I need to trigger. It's these combinations of these almost recipes of emotions that you create. Can you talk a little bit about, the light bulb moments, like, oh, it's not just selling from fear or selling from, greed kind of situation?
Excellent question. One of the best questions I've ever had. Yeah, the book was more about identifying the 15. Here they are, and good luck to you. It's a great book, but it doesn't give you the recipe, as you said. And as we delved into this, the way we amassed a lot of our formulas and data, we studied the ads over the last 100 years that were what I call home run ads. Okay, this is where the business is teetering, doing poorly, flatline sales, nothing to write home about, and then all of a sudden a new ad is introduced that just, all of a sudden the chart goes nuts and they start going into orbit, and those are all billion-dollar brands today. Most every billion-dollar brand that we look at, and you'd be amazed how many of them at one point were at the point of extinction before they came up with their winning formula. So it was the formula that did the trick. So we studied those formulas. Those are the ones you want to learn because they work. And we found that they work again and again and again. Other companies would adopt the same formula, different product, same formula, same results. It works for them too. So there are formulas that humanity seems to just love. And if you know what they are, you can formulate your brand's formulas around that, and you can build sort of the perfect ad. Now, what we found out also was that they are related. There's no emotional, they're not isolated in their own little box, and they don't touch the other emotions, and they just stay. For example, authority, it has many other emotions within it to create authority. And your particular emotion, community, which is belonging to the better group, let's say, has many ways to trigger the desire for community. So we learned that these emotions are all related, and that's what the algorithm does. That's why it's massively complicated, because you can imagine all these emotions interacting like molecules, trying to figure out which ones move the molecule in the right direction took a lot of time. And so all emotional archetypes are simply other emotions combined in the proper way. We show you the proper formula to use, and it's 1 + 2 = 3. If you can do 1 + 2 = 3, you can do anything that ADMANITY will ever teach you.
Fantastic. So I love the way that you do all of those things. And can we diagnose one ad like that everybody's going to know? And I think that what you're talking about, one ad can change an entire company. Subway knocked it out of the park with their $5 footlong, right? And I think they hit community, they hit pricing, they hit trust, they hit all of those markers with that one set of ads. They didn't just do the $5 footlong. That was the offer. They coupled it with Jared and the walking and all of those other things. Do you have any concepts on that $5 footlong ad and why it really just knocked it out of the park and changed it? It's going away for Subway, not because cost is going up. They can't sell that footlong for $5 anymore, and the franchisees are getting upset. But can you talk a little about the mindset about why that was so knocked it out of the park?
Well, you'll find that every big company sooner or later, hopefully, lands on an ad that's just wow, that's a winner, either by luck or because they have a great ad agency that thought it up. Or maybe there's a genius somewhere in the building. We don't know, but all of a sudden the perfect formula. And what you find previous to that is a lot of imperfect formulas. They tend to find their way. Let me give you one that I think probably everybody that's listening to this will have heard. Okay. So in fact, let's play a game. I got a great quick game we can play.
Okay.
All right. So everybody listening here right now, and Ken, you too, I'm just gonna ask you one simple question, and in your head, I want you to come up with an answer to this question. I want you to name 3 companies right now that come to mind that sell car insurance. Just think for a second. 3 big companies that sell car insurance.
Okay.
All right. Did you happen to think of Geico, Progressive, State Farm, Allstate, Farmers, or Liberty Mutual?
I had all 3 of mine were in there. Okay. I had Geico, Farmers, and State Farm.
There you go.
Yep.
Now, those 6 companies are pretty much what everybody comes up with. Every single one of those companies is using the exact same formula right now, which is proof that many companies can use the same formula, even at the same exact time. And those companies are the top 6 companies in the insurance world out of 2,000 companies, all using the same formula at the same time. So we studied the Geico formula, just to give you a hint of the kind of formulas we study, because a lot of people don't know Geico used to be, or still is, government employee insurance company. People don't know that's what Geico means. And for the longest time, Geico was having a really rough time selling their product. They were nothing like you know them today, buried deep in the pile of car insurance companies slugging it out. And they came up with their current formula with the Gecko and many others. And they use 2 emotions in combination. One is affinity. You like the caveman, you like the pig, you like the gecko, you like the humor, the fun of this product, because they know deep down nobody really craves insurance. So the best thing we can do is make you like the brand. So we make you laugh. And if you like the brand, there's a good chance you might buy the brand, but it's not enough. You have to couple that with the second emotion, and that's ambition, the greed archetype. Save money, save time. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on your car insurance, right? So if you like us and we save you money, you got to buy. We're a cool company, and they're all using savings and humor to drive their brands to the top. And it's an amazing example of how a simple formula can help anybody, even if they're all doing it at the same time. Isn't that cool?
Absolutely. And I would like to just jump on the savings part. I know from years of experience that if you're beating the market on price alone, you've already lost the game. You have to have something other than the lowest price, because at some point, if you get so low, now you have a perception issue on your product. If you don't have something else that you can couple that with, and then you'll lose business to people that even charge more because they've aligned with the product or they've aligned with the brand. So it's really important, especially on that price one. If you're competing on price, you have to add something else into your bucket, or you're already done.
Yeah, I always tell people, if price is your main marketing tactic, well, guess what? You're going to meet the person who's willing to lower the price even farther, and they're willing to stand next to you in bankruptcy court as you both go bankrupt, lowering the price. You have to have something better than that.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So moving forward, right? How do you see technology changing your industry moving forward into the future, specifically in the advertising world?
Great question. Again, we have a philosophy that around at ADMANITY, when you read enough of our stuff, you'll see this particular platitude, and it is that technology always changes. Human emotions never do, never have, and never will. Everybody listening to this podcast right now, you have the same emotions of Caesar, Aristotle, Shakespeare, and Mozart. And we remember their brands to this day because they were all masters of human emotion. But technology has come into the fray, hasn't it? And everything's faster. Everything is targeted now. Gosh, we can find a guy who eats Taco Bell with his dog on Wednesdays of months that start with S. And we know where he is and what he's doing now. The challenge is, what do you say to that person when the targeting works so well? You still have a huge problem. What do you say? What's the perfect thing to say to the perfect customer when technology finally delivers it to you? And that's where technology is going. They are going to be able to zero in even better and better. But at the end of the day, it's a human being, not a machine. A machine can find humans, but when it comes to communicating with them, we still operate with caveman primal emotional circuitry. And if you don't know how to master that, technology will not be enough. You'll be frustrated by technology. You will start to not like the technology. You will start to count all the money you're spending on technology because you don't have the final component. And I think technology is going to become wizardly cool. They're going to make sure it does, but just make sure you don't lose your caveman primal language. Whatever technology delivers to you, as long as we're talking to humans, this is what you need to also understand.
Absolutely. I think it's so important moving forward that people understand how well you can be targeted, right? They can target you on your birthday, your last name, your everywhere where you grew up, across the board. And as a business owner, it's really important to know that you can target the exact customer that you really, really want to talk to. I talk to business owners all the time, like, well, who's your ideal client? And they tell me that, and like, but I want this client, and this client also. I'm like, okay, well, those are 5 different marketing campaigns then, right? You got to market to each type of person or each bucket of category. And I think that's going to get more and more granular as we continue to move forward, right? You're going to see ads that are absolutely designed to target you very, very specifically, not just the kind of person you are, but you specifically. Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today, Brian. Do you have anything that you would like to leave the audience with before we go?
Well, let me give you some caveman simple advice. If you're trying to figure out what your ideal person wants to buy and you're trying to deliver your product, most business people will sit down and they'll make a list of all the cool things that they do. You know, let's say you're trying to do an ad and you're just going to write down this. Oh, we do this. We've done that. We won this award. We specialize in this and all these cool things. And it's all true. Every word of what you just wrote down is absolutely true. And you should be proud of it, but it won't sell. What you should be more cognizant of is maybe a different list. Write down the list of what your customer would wish for. If you were the genie and they could get anything out of you that they possibly could want, profit or not, what would that list be? It would be a ransom note. There's no doubt. They would want this and they want that. They want it cheap. They want it free. They want it guaranteed. They want this and that and the other thing. And you'd look at this list and you'd say, oh my gosh, you know, I can't deliver all this. This is crazy. I wouldn't make a dime. Yes, but that's what they want. And your job as a business, a marketer, an advertiser is to figure out how to phrase that, how to position that so that whatever you do have sounds like that. And how many of those points could you actually deliver on? You might be able to actually do some of these, maybe not all. So focus on what you can deliver on that ransom note. Give them what they want and you will make sales. Try to sell what you want and you're going to find a very difficult road ahead. I think it'll help a lot of people.
I say this all the time when we're building websites for clients or building an ad for clients. And it's really hard for people to get through their head. I'm like, okay, you continue to talk about you and your product. You have to talk about your client inside this page or inside this email and what your client's desires and wants are, not about your product and service. They don't care about the laundry list of stuff. And the only time they care about the laundry list of stuff of what your product or service is, if they're problem and solution aware. They already know that you're the solution for them and they're just price comparing 3 different solutions. And if that's the case, then you have to have some other emotion that you're going to try to pull them into, because if they're just price shopping, the customer's not going to make the decision on price alone. It very, very seldomly ever happens unless you're an extreme commodity product. Even water sitting at the gas station has different price tags on it, and Evian is still selling over Mountain Spring, and it's even though it's more expensive. So it's something you have to be thinking about if you're a business owner. So again, if they wanted to work with you, Brian, how would they get in contact with you one last time before we go?
Well, again, if you want to download a free document that will give you a lot more information on ADMANITY and why it works and the emotions and all that, go to admanity.com/clicks for clicks and bricks, but just say clicks. And you'll get a free download of that document. And it's a wonderful way to get acquainted with us. And then you can decide if you want to go forward and get your brand assessed. You can also reach out to us. Reach out to me on LinkedIn, ADMANITY, Brian Gregory. Look me up. I'm there. I'm not a LinkedIn snob. I will actually communicate with you if you write to me. Please reach out if you have questions. Happy to chat with anybody from the podcast today. These are smart business people listening. I would like to meet them all. So please, folks, reach out, get your free report, get your ADMANITY assessment if you can, and start taking your business out of the harbor. Let's go sail in the high seas.
Absolutely. And I've gone through the document. I've read the whole thing. It's fascinating. I think any business owner out there, just that one document, to give it a read, I think if you just open-mindedly read that document, you might start implementing some of those things, or it's going to be at least eye-opening, even if you don't move forward and buy the whole protocol tests and all that other stuff. It's valuable information. And if it wasn't, we wouldn't be sharing it today. So thank you so much for your time today, Brian. I very much appreciate it.
Ken, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
No problem. If you'd like to join my text line community, the number is 314-370-2871. How you would join my text line community is ask me any question about business or technology on that text line, and I'll give you an absolutely free, unbiased answer. That's it for today, folks. Get to work.